without any further ado, let's get started with the GitHub workshop or Git and GitHub. So, what is Git? Git is a version control system to where you basically let you just save your progress or like create snapshots for whatever kind of project you're working on. So it's the same thing as just saving your game. Um, it lets you go back to previous saves or previous versions if need be, and it lets you compare the difference between multiple versions. That's kind of the most simple explanation of what Git and GitHub is. So first, I'll start off with going over some of the like the vocabulary needed to understand Git and what the uh, kind of what the tools are. So when you use Git, what you do is that you create a repository, which is kind of like the whole folder that you want to save. It contains all the files of the project and the history of those files. It and then you have the staging, which basically goes over. Whoops, I am moving my mouse because I am on. And then you have something called staging, where your files are before you want to commit the change to them. So these are like the files that you've, basically when you're playing like an unsaved game, you haven't saved them yet. But those are things that have changed going on. A commit is when you actually save that game. So it's a snapshot of that current point in your project. It keeps track of all the changes over time, so you'll be making multiple commits, which would be the same thing as making multiple saves. Something what you do when you have your files on staging, or I mean, after you made a commit, what you do is you push them to the either your GitHub or whatever remote repository you're working with. So pushing is just basically uploading all your commits from your local machine up to any remote repository that you choose. A pull would be the opposite of that. That'd be checking and pulling any changes from the repository down your local computer. And a branch is the technical term is it's a pointer to a specific commit, but it's just a parallel version of the main project. So a branch is it takes the entire project and moves it over to another what we call a branch, and you can make changes on that branch without actually affecting the main project itself or affecting anybody else's work on that project. So a branch would let you work on something without changing everybody else's files. So that's just the vocabulary. Um, and I keep mentioning Git and GitHub and other things like that. So there's more than Git itself is not GitHub. It's its own system. Git is what the the actual program and version control that is like all the snapshots are saved on. So as I mentioned, it's what's called source control management. It allows users to revert or keep track of every version of their project. It lets you compare the differences between those versions. It lets you see who changed something and when it got changed. And it also lets you there's multiple ways to interact with Git. You can use your command line, you can use a GUI, or you can use what it comes with is normally Git Bash, which is a Linux-based terminal. I'm going to go over using the terminal just a little bit, and then I'm going to jump into using GitHub and GitHub Desktop because it's a little bit easier to use, especially to beginners. Then I have some more stuff with branches here, kind of jump in that. Yeah, when you use Git and you create a branch, it like I said, it copies everything from the main, including every single change that's been made on the main. All those things come over too. So if you want to go on make a branch, you should be able to revert to an older version of the Git on that branch, and it lets you retain version control without flooding the main branch with commits and changes and kind of shuffling everything up. And then, so I said Git is not GitHub, right? So GitHub is a website. It is where it lets you host all the repositories on the cloud. The reason why you want to host them on the cloud, obviously, is so you can collaborate with other people. Since Git only shows what's on your machine, unless you're sharing those files via USB, or letting everybody work on your own machine, you're going to want to have something like GitHub to everybody can just work on it at their own pace on their own computers. There's also alternative to GitHub. There's a few other remote repositories out there, but I'm not going to really go over them because I don't know them as much as I really know GitHub. So I'm going to pull up an example. Does everybody here have Git downloaded? If not, I posted links in the Discord meeting general where I've linked. The very top one should be just Git. If I pull that up, you'll come here, and you would just download it for whatever version that you have. I already have it downloaded, so I'm just going to open it. It should be a really quick download as well. So Git Bash is the terminal that it comes in. It opened up on my other screen. And I probably don't want to full screen that because it's a little bit up there. So if everybody has Git Bash, does everybody have it open? And the main reason I want to go over Git Bash, even though it's a little bit more on the computer tech savvy side, is just so I can show you what the fundamentals of Git is before I move on to Git Desktop. So for setting up Git, what you want to do is we're going to set up our first stuff when it comes to the config of it. So I got water on my paper. So we're gonna do some basic commands for setting up Git. First command is just gonna be git space config -- global, and then we're gonna do user .name, and then you're gonna put in quotation marks the name of whatever you want to put for your username, so that way people know who you are when you are pushing your commits on the Git. So mine should already be set up, but I'll just put mine as Crimson, or I can put it down as Mark for this case. So everybody knows who I am. Mark. Wait, is this there? Wait, is it others? Then we're gonna run this another git config command. So git space config -- global, and we're gonna put user .email, and then this is where you do the same thing. You put quotation mark, or you don't need to put quotation marks for this one. For this one, you just put your email in, so that way, I don't know if this helps you log in, but it helps people know, are able to contact you if they're saying, hey, I don't understand this change, or hey, I think you maybe, it's helpful for feedback or for someone getting in contact for trying to understand what it is that you pushed. So I'll just put my CPP email. And then we'll do one for changing or having the default name of the main branch or master branch is what it used to be called. So this is for whenever you initialize a Git repository, this is going to be the name of your default branch. So we're going to do git config -- global. Then we're going to do init .default branch. And then we're going to call it main. And so now whenever we create a Git repository, the master main branch or the root branch, however you want to call it, it's going to be called main. And there's going to be some other stuff that will help you if you want to know a little bit more about what these commands do. You can do, for example, for git config, you can do git config -h. And this will tell you all the different commands you can do. And this might be a little bit hard to read, so you can also do git help config. What that should do, it should open up something on the browser. Well, that's a little bit awkward. Normally what that does is it pulls up a document that shows you in a more readable way what the command does. So I guess in another case we can do git init -h, and it should tell you some of the things you can do, some tips about it. A lot of this stuff I don't really use, so I don't quite understand. But for example, initial branch name, you can change your format, that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create our very first Git repository on our local machine. So I'm going to create a folder on my desktop. We'll call it my first Git. And then what we're going to want to do is copy the address, because since it's the old school, I want to copy my address. And since it's like a Linux-based system, or a terminal rather, normally you want to use CD to get into it, which stands for current directory. So we're going to do CD, we do quotation marks, and I'm going to copy the, let's see here, I'm going to copy and paste my location, and you can see now I'm in that folder, desktop, my first Git. So we will want to initialize our repositories, so that way you can start tracking and adding and committing files. So we'll do git space init for initialize. And if we come in over here, if you have hidden files turned on, you'll be able to see this hidden folder called git. So now this whole folder is going to be now a working repository. So if I want, I can go ahead and put some files in here. We go ahead and just grab some random stuff. Let's put a couple random files in here. Here's this random image. I'll just create a text file. Text file. Call it first file. I can edit this file, which pulls it up on my other screen. Hi, workshop. And if you know the terminal at all, you can also use this to create more files. So I can do touch new file.txt. And then you see we have these in here. So one of the first things we want to know is the status of the repository. So we'll do the command git status. And it shows that there are no commits yet. We're on our master branch, which it should be called main. I'm not sure why. Probably because my config is already saved to an old one. You have 3 files it sees. They're in red because it says they're untracked files. So as it says here, you have to use git add to track a file. So we're going to use git add, we'll say first file.txt. And now if I do git status again, it says in green on the top, new file, first file.txt. And the other ones are not being tracked, so it's just completely ignoring those. If you want to add all the files in the current directory, you can do git add and then a star or a dot. And this will add everything it can find in under the repository. So I can do git status again. All of them are being tracked. And I'm going to go ahead and clear this up a little bit. So once you have your files added, they're what you call staging. So these files are added and ready to commit to the repository, but you haven't actually done it yet. So at this point, you can also still git status. If you want, you can change your mind. Say I don't want the new file, so I could do git remove, or I think I need to do -- staging. Git rm -- staging first file.txt. Might have spelled it wrong. Stage, my bad. I'm not used to using the command line, to be honest. I use GitHub Desktop, so I'm just trying to go over what the behind the scenes are. So we'll just say we still want it. So I can now do git commit you want to put a dash and M, so you can put your commit message. Say just to tell you what this commit is doing. So that'd be my first commit. This is 3 styles change, 1 insertion, and so now if I do, let's see here, git log, you can see I have this here commit. It has an ID to it somewhere. Has a date and it says who's done this commit, which is me, Mark G, at my email. And there's a few things we want to do to generally what you want to worry about is like filling up your GitHub with junk or your Git in general with junk. So most Gits have an ignore file. So we want to actually be able to add an ignore file. So say if I had, let's see here. Say I'm working on a game project and there's these files in there that take a ton of space every time you compile it, but you don't actually need them because every time you open the project, like the editor already has those files done, so you don't need to actually share them. So if I do git status, you see, oh, I have this docs file. I don't want this to be in here. I don't want it to pop up. If I do, I want to be able to add all my changes at once. I don't want to manually type it. So I do git add star and then, pop all your changes up, right? What we want to do is we want to create a git ignore file. So you want to do new text document and make sure your computer has file extensions showing because we're going to be changing that. So we're going to call it .git ignore. And it's going to say, oh, it might become unstable because it's not the same file type. We're going to say, yes, it's fine. This is going to open whatever Notepad++. Or in my case, it's opening Visual Studio Code because I just downloaded it. And I'm going to say, I don't want any docs files. So I'm going to do, and just like any coding thing, you can put comments. So I'm going to say, my ignore files. Let me zoom in. I cannot, sorry. And I'm going to type in, let's see here, star, which means anything that comes before it, docx, because that's the file type I want to ignore. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to close it. If I come back here, if I do git status again, it says it only sees the git ignore file, but it doesn't see the docs anymore, despite it still being in the folder. So now, no matter what I do, it's not going to be pushing that document to my Git, which should really help clean up your project or ignoring files, that kind of thing. Or, for example, when I was making feature creep, I realized I have a ton of 4K textures. Maybe I want to ignore those text files and stuff like that because those are really like clogging it up. So whenever someone wants to pull, every time those things are changed, it just completely slows everything down. And it might even be helpful in cases where you're working on something and you want to make several commits and pushes and like by the very end of it, when you're done with it, then you can get rid of that .ignore and add all those files in one batch without having to really like clog up your file system. So if we come back here, you see it's still here, but it's not doing anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and do git add. I'm just gonna press start again because I want to actually. /FO. So you see, it said, hey, there is this one that's in my ignored. If I want to use it, I can use -F, but I don't. So I'm just going to keep it like this. Git status. Track file. Should add that. Git add. Git ignore. I press .git add this way. Git add. Git ignore. I'm going to say git commit -m quotation marks added git ignore. if I do git log, you can now see my second commit, which is added git ignore. Right now, it's just stored on your local system, so you can still use this. You can use a Git without having access to the internet if you're just working on your own personal project. If you don't want to publish it, you can still have your repositories running now. So this is just on your local machine. I'll be showing how to connect it to GitHub just a little bit later. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna change one of these. I'm gonna say, hi everybody. Hope you all go to Jollibee later. And now if I do get status, it sees that it's been modified. I could also say, let's see here. I don't want new file anymore, so I'm gonna delete this. Git status. See that it's modified. I've deleted that. I want to add these changes, so I'm gonna do git add. How much can you set period? Git status again, so I can see what I've done. So I've saved these two changes to the staging. So I've modified this one, I've saved this, or I deleted this, and I want those changes to go through. So I do git commit dash message. I'll do third commit to make it simple. Now if I do git log, and I'm going to do another command that says dash dash one line, it'll take out all those details so I can easily see all my commits. So my first commit, added git ignore, and my third commit. And this is where I'm currently at. That's why it has the, not only the top, it'll say this is that head, this is the master. And say, I also changed my mind. I don't want the first file either. I can delete that. And say, I come back to here, I do git status. That's deleted. I can try doing something called git store. First file.txt. And it's magically back. So in case that you broke something or you accidentally deleted something, because Git is saving those snapshots, you can always recover it. Say, I actually, that other file is long gone. I've added a few things. Maybe I broke my project and I just need to start back from the beginning. So I can do, but I had my configuration set up at the beginning. I don't want to do that again. I could do git log dash dash one line. And these are IDs for your commits. So these are your save points. What you can do is, I'm going to copy this little ID. Or it's mad at me if I try to do it. I'm going to copy this. And I could do git reset. And then I'm going to put that ID there. Let me get rid of all the jumble thing that took with me. So git reset, and then I'm going to put that ID there. Because unstaged files have to reset. So if I come back to here, it's ignoring this, but aside from that, I have to actually put them in. I think we do git commit dash, or no, I do git add. So these are in its own little staging. Where is my cursor? We'll do git add everything. Git status. And do git commit dash m reset. That's weird. Git log. odd. Git log dash one line. Try this again. I was killing my neck doing this. Paste. What this would normally do, I'm really not sure why this is not working right now, but normally what this would do, this would revert everything back to this point. So this should just say hi workshop and it wouldn't have the Jollibee. The get ignore should be gone. Status. So it does see this as modified, ignored. I'm surprised I didn't take it out. So these are all basically new. Yeah, this would make it so these files would all revert back to that very first state. For some reason, my file system, I think, is not letting it do it. But yeah, this should just say hi workshop because that's where I first saved it as. It's just hi workshop. But it has to change. If I do, let's see here, git restore. Let me go ahead and delete this. There we go. So I had to get rid of all the changes. So I reverted it, and then I went and got rid of all the changes that it saw. So now it's all everything's back to their original state. So that's kind of just like the basics of adding and committing. There's a few other things you can do, like creating branches. Do you guys want to learn how to do branches on the command line, or do you guys want to jump to the GitHub desktop so you can not see me struggle? Yeah, we can do branches. Right. So I'm in the main branch right now, right? So if I do let me clear all this. Git status. So I'm on the main branch. Let me go ahead and just keep this file. So I do git add star git status git add dot git commit dash m git ignore. I want to keep this. And from here we can do we do git branch and then name of your new branch. So I'm gonna call this new feature. And you see this should create another branch. So I can do git switch feature. Oh, new feature, my bad. New feature. And you see on the blue text right here, this is my master branch, and now I'm in a new branch called git feature. Say I'm gonna make a bunch of new files. Not change the extension. This is what new file, the first file, second file. Okay. Feature file. And login. File. If I do git status, I have all these new changes. I'm gonna add this also. Git add dot git status. These are all in staging. Okay. Git commit dash m feature files added. So these are all here, right? I haven't changed any of them all. They all just say hi workshop. If I do git log, you can see, or if I do git log dash dash one line so I can read it. we have my first commit, git ignore, which does label as master. This is where the master's at. And I'm one commit ahead of the master, so this is where I'm currently at adding or feature files added. So if I want to go back to the main branch, git switch, it's called master here. I notice all those files are gone. And if I want, Control F, we'll do master files 1, master file 99. I'm going to change this one. Help us raise funds at Jolly Bee. I probably spelled that wrong, but that's fine. Yeah, Collie Bee. Close enough. So these I still need to add. So git status. Yep, those are not added. Git add everything. Git commit added. Git -m added more master files. Now I look at my directory, I can go ahead and switch git switch back to the other one, new feature. Those files are again back exactly how I left them in new feature. So I have logging file, first file, feature file, and second file. And so if I want to go again, git switch back to the master file, those are all still here. And say I actually want, like I finished that feature, I want to bring them to the main branch. You can do git merge -m for your message, merging all new features. New feature. So after the quotation marks for your message, grab that. And so I went ahead and made another commit, so I do git status. There's no changes. I'm on the master branch. If I do git log --one line, you can see that all those files are merged in its own commit. You can see I added the in the little table here. These are the one commit that I put from the new features. These are the master files, which I did after, so these are in chronological order. And then here it shows the current commit that I've merged them all. So now if I come back to my files, my logging, my second file, but also my master file is also here. And lastly, something that you might have heard of, merge conflicts. So say I go into first file, say hi workshop, you add some random text, play Halo on Fridays. Save this. I'm gonna add git add, not git add everything, git commit -m quotation marks, added messaging. Now that that's committed, I can go back to the other branch, git switch, new feature. Those changes should be gone to the first file because I haven't changed anything on this branch. Also, let me just double check the Discord real quick. See that I have no messages in here. Okay, I don't. I'm gonna go ahead and change first file. And on the first file, I don't want people to play Halo. Let's say play Team Fortress 2. So here's this play Team Fortress 2. If I try merging these now, because I've edited the same file, I haven't created a new one. So if I go back to my terminal, or first let me add and commit this. So git add, git commit -m, added df2 messaging. TF2 mess. These are added to git log dash one line. I have this push. So I'm gonna go ahead and git switch back to master. I'm gonna try merging again. So git merge dash m second merge conflict, then new feature. It's gonna give me this error message here. It says has a conflict, auto merging first file, conflict is in this file, automatic merge failed, fix the conflicts, and then commit the result. So you notice that there's a little difference in the main branch that I'm on. It says master merging, meaning I'm currently in this in-between stage. So if I come back to the first file, I see, let's see here. First file is at the bottom. It has this weird change on it. It says, hi workshop, and it has a section that says head, play Halo on Fridays, which if you remember, that's where I put down on the main branch. It has this little divider, and it says Team Fortress 2, which is on the new feature branch. So in order for this to go through, I have to choose which one I want to go through. So who wants Halo to go through on Fridays? Raise your hand. One guy, two guys. Who wants Team Fortress 2 to go through? Okay, you lose, Aaron. So in order for it to go through, what we want to do is we want to delete the whole section that didn't that we don't want, and then we also delete this little head message. I'm going to save this, and if I go back to my terminal, I'm going to go ahead and try merging or try committing it again. Let's see here. So we do git status, git add, then git commit. Oh, I didn't put space. Git commit and fixed. And you see, as soon as I committed that, it brought me back to my master. So if I do git log, and I'll look at the details, we can see comfort that I added a new feature, just fix TF2, but that didn't work. So I had to fix the conflict, so I have this here. So now they're all merged. Everything should be up to the same point. And I can do, there's one more command that I kind of forgot to go over earlier, which is git diff. So if I change something here, if I say play League on Mondays, if I save this, I don't know where I am. Oh no, I've hit a command. I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't like the command line. So I'm back on this. Let's see. Okay, git diff. So if I do git diff, it will show me that this file has changed, and it'll show me what changed on it. So this is a new addition to this, so I can see, oh, what's the difference before I want to add it. So I can see, okay, play League on Wednesdays or Mondays. Sure, I do git add star, and then we just continue to commit it like we normally would. I think that's kind of everything I wanted to go over for git bash. We're gonna go ahead and move on to GitHub. Now, does everybody have a GitHub account? Yes. And does everybody have GitHub desktop downloaded? If not, the link's also in the Discord. I can quickly show you. So you were wondering earlier, how are we gonna come to it on GitHub, right? With GitHub desktop, there's two ways to do this. One is you can run a command on here that pushes it to the origin, and I believe Well, in order to do that, first you need to make a repository on GitHub to push it to. So first I'll go ahead and pull over here. So in that case, you want to come up to repositories, new, think. I'll do Git from workshop. So as soon as you create that, it should bring you to this page which says quick setup. This is where you can get the command. So I just grab it right here from an existing repository from the command line. I took this link, or I mean, it puts this link there for you. You put these 3 commands in, and now if I go here, all those files I had are all here. Another way to do this, once you get GitHub Desktop, if you have that downloaded, say I were to delete this repository, new settings, all the way down. Delete it, oh no, I want to delete it. Yes. I really want to delete this. Oh no. It doesn't like it. It doesn't like it when you delete it. So that brought me back here. My repository is now gone. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up GitHub Desktop. Or GitHub Desktop. I'm gonna pull it over here. And it's gonna pull up this. From here, we can go to our repositories. We can click add existing repository, and then I can go find that on my computer. So just so I can see my first Git. It'll give you an error if there's no repository in there, but if I go here with this nice interface, I can actually see I have all my history. I can see what the changes were. They're nice and highlighted and red for me. It's a lot easier than using the command line. And then here's the unpush commit that I had at the time. So if I want, I can come over here. I can write a message or the name of the commit. So desktop commit description. I just opened, or I just put description. I can commit from here, which is right here, commit to main. And up here it says push to origin. It doesn't have an origin anymore, I believe. It says this probably does not have an somewhere. Do not have access or is banned. Oh. Normally it would say publish, but I might have messed it up because I already changed it. But just for simplicity's sake, it would just say publish there. So if I were to, real quick, let's say, I'm going to make this a new repository. I'm going to delete this. Open up bash. You get status. It's going to be like, hey, there's no git here anymore, so I'm going to do git init. So this is now a brand new repository. Say I had done all those changes. I do git add. Let me bring this over here. Okay, add thing, because I've just restarted my repository for the sake of this. Git status. All these. Git commit bash m first commit. There we go. Pull GitHub Desktop back up. Since I'm already in here, I just do the same thing. You'd find it. And it says here publish repository. So it would have you sign up or log into GitHub if you're not already. Then you would have the name here. Git workshop, I think. Can't read it. Description. Testing for my workshop. And I can, since I have organizations part of my GitHub, I can choose to publish it under myself, which would be none, or under one of these. I can put it under the Game Dev Club, and I can publish a repository. I'll give it a second to see. It says fetching, publishing, and we're back to how it looked a second ago. Now if I come to the GitHub desktop, or GitHub, the actual website, I go to the Game Dev organization. repositories, and you can find the repository right here. The same thing has all those files I had earlier. So now with just GitHub Desktop, now that you know like basically how everything's working, I can show you that GitHub Desktop does basically all the same things. So I'm going to go back to that folder. I'm going to add more files. Secret image. If I come over here to changes, it automatically shows that, hey, there's this file that's changed. This is new. If I go in here, if I say hi workshop, I want to change this to bye workshop, even though it's not done yet. I'm hungry. Let's get chicken. I come over here, it pops up. It shows, hey, this has been deleted, so it's in red. These are my changes. And then same thing down here, I have to put a commit message, so hungry message. There's a description, so you can be more descriptive. I'm just going to leave it blank. Commit. And now it's here in the commit history. Now notice that since now that I'm working on GitHub, I have another option, and that's where I say push. If you remember in the beginning, I said pushing is when you actually take it up to the remote repository. So even though I've added those changes, if I were to go to back here, and if I check, let's see here, I changed logging file. If I go back here on GitHub Desktop or GitHub.com, go to logging file, those changes are not reflected. So from here, I wanted to push to origin, which is going to update that on the website and for anybody else who's on the repository. So now if I come over here and I refresh, those changes are now here. And alternatively, say I'm on somebody else's machine, they're on this repository. I'm going to give that an example by just changing it on github.com. You can also add files and edit files from GitHub without having to go into your IDE or whatever thing that you're using. So I can edit this file. I'm going to say hi from across the internet. Add a commit. Yes, commit directly. Main branch. Now if I come over here, I have to fetch to origin, so I'm going to check. Fetching is checking for any changes. It sees that there is a change, so I'm going to pull that down from GitHub onto my local machine. And now those changes are going to be reflected on my computer. So now it's hi from the internet. If I go to a file folder, I check logging, and it's now reflected on my local machine. So here's a few kind of notes about it. GitHub has a lot of features that help you with collaboration. It also helps you make branches. So also within GitHub Desktop, you know how we had the branch earlier? This says current branch, which is master. From here, I can create a new branch, name the branch to say desktop branch. Then same thing, so if I were to go and change any files, just like I said, looked at it before. Branch, save this. It's going to be reflected here. Commit this change. It's going to be reflected in my commit history. And I can change between branches, and that change is going to be gone, just like it was when I was doing it from the command line. Same thing if I swap back, that commits there. And if I want to merge the branches, I go here to master. This is what I want to be on. And I'm going to right click on this. No. Right here you have these few options. It might be hard to see from there, but we have repository, where you can directly push, pull, fetch or remove. Also a link to GitHub, so I can instantly go to, let's open up on my other computer. This will go to GitHub. showing your current working repository, show an explorer, so this instantly takes me to my folder. Open in command prompt, which just brings you back to the command line, which nobody wants, unless you're a little bit crazy. And this also is going to open the files in whatever your IDE is. And if I go over to branch, we have new branch option or options for your branch. So you can compare to your branches, so you can see what the differences are compared to this one. And I can swap in between. What's the difference? This is main. I haven't added any changes, so this is going to be all my changes on this one that it sees. So this is the difference. It's just this, right? If I go to like here to branch, I can select merge onto current branch. Which let me go ahead and make sure I am on master. Go ahead and get rid of that. We'll do branch, merge on the current branch. I'm gonna choose this to merge into the current branch, and commit merge. And this time there's not gonna be any conflicts because I didn't change it anywhere else. And then I'm gonna push this to the origin. So back on GitHub. As the branch change. And then same thing here also. Yeah, here it says master. From here I can also choose or add branches. Down here, view all branches. And I might have not pushed the branch to GitHub. So even though I was able to do it from there, let me go ahead and swap to my desktop branch. Let me publish this. That way it reflects on GitHub. So now, there we go, my other branches. So we have your branches and active branches. So it says all the ones you created will be here. All the other ones that I'm not sure what it considers active. There's also a couple other things that rarely happen or rarely that you need to use. There's two more things called staging, or not staging. There's did I make a slide for it? I believe I did. There's two things called rebasing, and what is the other one? Well, I'll talk about rebasing. Rebasing is an option you can do either on the command line or on here. So if I do the branch, I have an option to, let's see here. You have squash and merge. Oh, yeah, squash. Squash is where you take multiple commits and combine them into one. And rebasing is basically where you're reordering the commits. So if I wanted this to somehow happen before this did, there's very few instances where you are going to need this. But say if you're working on your local machine and you work on your laptop, there might be a scenario where you want to push something from your laptop. You change something, you go back to your computer, you change another thing on the same file, and you realize that you one pushed overwritten the other one. So those changes that you made on your laptop are suddenly gone, and now next time you open the project, you're getting a bunch of errors. So you're going to go to rebase. You're going to reorder those commits to make sure that laptop commit happened before the other one. That way, those changes are not overwritten. I had to do that a couple times when I was working on my game. So that's what rebasing is. And I think that's all the basics of GitHub right there. You have a couple other options on GitHub itself. There's something called forking, which is really similar to branches. Forking, what it does is it takes a repository and creates another repository, which is all the same, including all of the GitHub history, all the commit history. So say I have a public, I'm on the club organization that I believe I showed you, right here, the club organization. You guys don't have access to the club organization because I haven't added you guys as team members yet. But say you took this and you want to make your own changes to this repository, but you can't push them to GitHub because you're not on my thing. So what you would do is that you would create a fork if it's available. Let's see here. Forking is disabled. If a repository has forking enabled, you create your own repository. All the changes and pushes and commits you make to that won't show on the original. It'll only show on your own. But because you forked it, you can do something called a pull request, which would tell the original owner that, hey, I made these changes. Can we make these changes on the actual main thing? And you can do this without either. So you can do this without being part of the organization or the team, or you could just kind of fork it and keep all this commit history. Say, so they added a new feature, you downloaded it. Oh, you don't like that feature. You like the older version, so you can fork it. You can revert back to that old commit, and you can work off it from there. And the same thing will happen if you have a merge conflict on here. It's gonna do the same thing where it's gonna want you to choose between those two files. It will just have a message say, "Hey, there's a merge conflict." I think that's all I have on my notes. Let me go back to the slides. Got you. You're late by like more than an hour. So GitHub desktop it needs to move. There's no need to actually remember the command so long as you or like the order of anything. Once you kind of have the basics of GitHub down, and now that you know what GitHub desktop is doing, that way it kind of takes away some of the confusion of GitHub desktop because it's a little bit overwhelming with all the different like commands and stuff. But I find that learning the command line is just a little bit easier because you're doing everything one by one. And so, which should you choose? I have this is one of the GitHub or Git cheat sheets, which will show you all of the different commands that you regularly use. It has this nice little graph that shows the Git workflow. So from your remote repository, you fetch that to your local, you pull it until it's in your working directory. You want to make changes, go through your staging, so you add them, you commit them, and you push them back up to your remote, as we did here. And just have some Git slander here. So when you're working on large projects, sometimes merging can be a very big problem because you've had 5 people make like a gigabyte worth of changes equally. And so some people, I'm pretty sure this happened during, what was the Larry project? What was he famous for? Skipping on the name. Gunslinger Hilda. Yeah, they had some merge conflicts that they spent like they spent all night working on that, getting the conflicts to be good. And this is a typical.
Well, not they. It was just Larry.
Yeah, just Larry. Yeah. Here's your average terminal user versus this. So that's basically it for the workshop. Hopefully, you guys can be able to use it on your own projects now and keep that for. Anyways, there's also more.
So yeah, go to Jollibee afterwards, like now, to make up for our mistakes.
I'm gonna give you a small example of how to set up feature creep because I have the GitHub ready. I want to show you guys kind of the process of setting it up for one of your projects. So say you use Unreal Engine. This is going to be essentially your setup tutorial for getting GitHub connected to your Unreal Engine project. So obviously, what does this have to do for Git? You want to be able to work on the same game together, right? Instead of manually just sending like coding files, that's a terrible idea. So GitHub or other large projects use something called Git LFS, which is large file storage. What it does is it has pointers to the actual files because it's not hosted on GitHub.com. It's actually hosted on a separate server. GitHub is good for specifically binary files or large files because those pointers will make it a lot faster to push and pull, and you won't sit there loading forever. So I made a small video showing.
Oh, I love the seafood.
Yeah, that's me. That's me from like yesterday in the computer lab.
I was there.
Yeah, you were. You pop up for like 2 seconds. So for getting something started for Unreal Engine, first you want to get the version of the Unreal Engine downloaded, so you can have something. And since Git LFS is actually an extension, so you need to download it separately from Git or GitHub Desktop. So here I'm going over like the whole thing. So this is how to download Git. So this is me downloading Git. We go to Git. You can go to Git LFS. It has this. You download that. You do the same install. It's just like downloading Git and Git Bash. You choose a file path, download it. You guys should have already downloaded GitHub Desktop. What you need to do once you download Git, you have Git Bash. You need to initialize Git LFS. So you just simply open up Git Bash and you just run one command, which is just Git LFS install. That's all you need to do. Set up now.
I have a question.
What's your question?
What like general file size should we start considering using GitLFS at?
GitHub gets mad at you if you want to push any file over 500 megabytes. So if you can't push it to GitHub, you want to be able to push it to GitLFS.
Right.
So if you have, there's a few pros and cons for GitLFS. Oh yeah, this is also something I forgot to show as well during my actual showcase. Is that if you want to use GitHub Desktop to pull a repository from GitHub.com, what you do is that you press right here it says Add. You click on that. You would click Clone Repository. Then you would go to the repositories that you've already added, or you can put in the URL for ones I'm obviously already added on. I would scroll down. I have feature creep right here, so I click on that and I clone it, and that will instantly instantly bring all those files down without having to manually download them. Unfortunately, for large projects like a whole game and assets and all that, this is just me changing my file. I don't want it to go into my documents folder, so I can actually see the window pop up. It takes a while for large projects, but I fast forwarded it.
Everyone in the computer lab was like, "Who's this fucking bozo?"
Yeah. Nathan sped it up too fast. I was doing a bit in the computer lab. See what I get for making him edit it. So, you know.
It's okay, you're getting back at him with the lack of audio today.
Yeah. So after like 10 minutes of waiting for this project to download onto my computer because EDU was having one of those days. It would take like fucking 4 minutes probably.
Usual, every day.
Yeah, EDU Rome sucks.
You know when I put out in the lobby the announcement that Halo is $10?
Mhm.
That's exactly when EDU Rome went down. I was like,
You crashed
it
it.
was downtime. It was
So
downtime
this
for
is something
maintenance.
that again you can't see on the small video, but what I essentially ended up doing is repository. I went to show and explore, and then I just copied this, which is what I'm doing in the background. So, I should have told him to re-edit this video. So I went ahead and opened up Unreal Engine. I went and got the file path. Let's see here. I finished downloading 5.4. Nice pop of your neck.
Excuse me. It'll come off eventually.
What you would do in this case is you come here to browse in order to find the project because it's not going to see the project right away if it's not been opened before. You copy and paste this the directory into your Unreal Engine. Click on the exe once I do it. Man, why didn't he speed up this part? Nathan Slander 10. I open the project. I'm gonna skip this part. Opening a Unreal Engine project for the very first time takes a while, but after that it takes like a few seconds. So there's another like 5 minutes of me idling. And then you'd have Unreal Engine open. And then because you use GitLFS, Unreal Engine should just open the project as it is. There are problems with you cloning certain projects for either Unity or Unreal Engine, depending on the project. That might break if you just download it and try to run it. So those are also instances where you use GitLFS where you are kind of concerned about this accuracy. I'm going to go ahead and, because this part of my little tutorial of opening that didn't work, so I'm going to go ahead and open Feature Creep. Epic Games. Unreal Engine. Library. Feature Creep. This will be a live example of how long it takes, not 5 minutes, after it's been set up the first time. This is just kind of a warning because I know a lot of the reason why some people get turned off with things like Unreal Engine is because of how long the projects take to open, or like how long it takes to set up. But
I've been told it's just the first time.
it's just the first time. You're not going to spend 10 minutes every day opening up Unreal Engine. And this is on my
who constantly worries about that. Use Unreal Engine. I should do that over this winter.
And then keep in mind, this is also not my home computer, this is my laptop. So.
Yeah, we'll see that thing open tomorrow.
Well, no, it's already done.
Oh, let's go.
Wait, no, it's not. Oh, wait,
That
it's
was
not.
a video. You gaslit
No,
yourself.
there you go. All right, so it's gonna load all its textures as it does. There's something here. Move, sir. You're in the light.
But the pizza.
Yes, the pizza's big.
Dude, I'm trying to
So you
eat
see at the
something.
bottom right here, we have something called revision control, which obviously is what Git is. For normally you would want to click connect the revision control. Let me come back here. So I'll disable it for a second just so I can show you. So you want to connect the revision control. You would choose Git, and then it would ask you to put in your credentials, which I've already done. This is my Git username and Git email. This is actually going to be very confusing when I actually start working on the project because before I started, these were two different things. So now I'm going to look like a different person. But once you have revision control connected, without even doing anything with the command line or doing anything with GitHub Desktop, I can come in here. I can make changes. I made the pizza big on one. I'm going to take this croissant. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to move it over here. Rotate it a little bit. And then make the thing massive. So we have this massive croissant
Hey,
and feature
go
creep.
back. What have you done with the terrain? Turn around.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's an optical illusion, sir.
A little suspicious.
That's nothing. That's just, a landing strip, okay? Anyways. So you see, I've just made some changes in the game, right? I can even make 2 massive croissants. 3 massive croissants. And then see down here, see it's 3 unsaved. I can click on this, save selected. Or that's just saving the actual project. Down here, I can click submit content. So without opening GitHub Desktop, without opening up the command line, as I mentioned before, it's going to be checking the assets for check-in. This just, I'm going to ignore this because it's something that likes to change whenever you recompile. So I'm going to add these 3 things. This is basically my interface. This is my change log description or my commit description. So I'm going to say 3 big, I don't know how to spell croissant. I'm going to say big croissant.
Croissant.
I don't know how to spell 3 big croissants. And so I can also view changes. Too late now because I already submitted them. But if I made another croissant, I can come over here, view changes. Oh, it's popping up on this monitor. If unsaved, everything to the change log. And then if I were to go to this, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my feature creep. Because I pushed those things in there, it's already in my commit history. So those things have been committed. If I needed to go back, this is a big pizza. I did this last time. I can also push this to origin. So now, just in Unreal Engine, I already made those changes. I added them, I committed them, and now I just need to push them. Here. And also, you can reorder commits or get rid of commits. So if I were to close this, sure, I'm just going to save. Why not? Just so I'm not cheating. I'm going to revert changes and commit. Error. Your local changes would be overwritten by revert. Oh, this. Oh, yeah, you gotta stash. I hate stashing. I don't want to stash anything. We delete it. Discard changes. I don't care.
No, don't say no.
No.
Why not?
Busy. I don't know if you noticed, I'm running a workshop here.
If I snap my fingers, there's going to be a packet of crushed red pepper on your laptop.
What the heck? Sneaky bastard. Alright, so here I'm going to say revert changes. What it's going to do is it's going to stash it in a way. I can also reorder changes. So like I said, you can reorder a single thing, or you can do a rebase, which does everything. Revert these changes. And these haven't been pushed to the origin, so these are on my local machine until I push it. So I'm going to go ahead and push those. They'll be reflected on GitHub, I promise. My laptop is going to lift off soon, thanks to Unreal Engine being open for like 2 minutes. I'm going to open Unreal Engine again. Wait for that to load, and you'll see the giant pizza and the giant croissants are gone back to the exact same state that it was like 3 days ago. We lost so many colors. That's back open. And even though you guys saw me save those things, you saw the massive pizza, they are back in their tiny little original states.
Mandela effect. It was there.
This is gaslighting.
There were never 3 croissants.
Technically, there was 4 because of tiny original percent. So yeah, everything is back exactly how it was. So yeah. And so from what you do at that point, and would just make your branches, work on your own features, push to GitHub so you can work on it from multiple places. Lord knows things break sometimes. And yeah, and that's the end of the bonus content. So thanks for listening. Again, in case anybody hasn't checked in, please do that if you want raffles or don't. Maybe some of us want to win more than others.